Hello everyone, welcome to the last and final part of the Scoreboard series. In this last part of the tutorial, I'll be going over how you can convert the blueprint into something you can use in the sequencer, like here. So if I scribble through the sequence over here, you can see that the numbers are all updating as it should. And I could also add in some more keyframes to it too. So if I want the score here to be like maybe a 10, it will go from 2 to 10. And then go back down to like 9. Yeah. So there's this option to do, and it's actually pretty simple, and I'll go over how you can do it. From the scoreboard tutorial blueprint that we created from the previous tutorials, we can go over and right click on it and then just simply duplicate it into a new blueprint. And if you see this one's the example right here that I have. So I pretty much just took from the scoreboard tutorial and then made a new one and then edit it from there. So from our newly duplicated scoreboard, let's just quickly rename this as first. So I'm gonna create this as the sequencer example then. Sequencer example, like that. So from the sequencer example, let's just go into the blueprint. And then since we're just going to use this in the sequencer, we actually don't need all these stuff. So from we can pretty much delete the overlap, begin overlaps. And from the event tick, we can delete all these event tick stuff because we don't need to use it in the sequencer itself. And we don't need the load and save functions as well. So let's just go ahead and delete all those from the event graph, like so. And I'm gonna delete this portion as well. So delete that. And then what we're gonna do is, if other than using the event begin play, we will use it in the event tick instead. So we can update it as the sequencer is playing. So in the event tick, let's just plug that in over here. And all we need is the check time and check score, like that. From the functions tab, we don't need the load. So I'm gonna delete that, and then we don't need to save as well. So let's just delete that. And constructorship, you can leave it as it is, like so, and then just compile and save for now. All right, so the next tab, in the viewport, we just need a scoreboard. So we don't need the goalpost or the collisions over here. So we could simply select all of these and just delete them as well, and then do a compile and save. And then next, if you want, you can also see how this works as first. So if I create a new animation, some level sequence, and I'll just do it as test, like that. And then within this test, first I'm going to change the viewport to over here, and then add in the newly sequencer example over here, drag that in, and then position this to here. So next in the sequencer, let's just drag the blueprint into the sequencer. And then since over here, you can see that there's no way to key the home score, away score, and minute score in seconds. So what we will need to do is to go back into the sequencer example over here. And then from the variables, the score variables here, we will need to expose these into cinematics. So let's click on that. Like so, compile and save. And then you can see that you can key this in the sequencer now. So if I key this right now, let's say home score, I'll just key everything at 0 and then go over to 90 and then make this 2 maybe. And then 23 and then 12. Oops. Sorry, I didn't key it. So that means key those and then do something like this. So you can see that the score has updated, but the problem is that when you scribble through the sequencer, it's doing nothing at all. So how do we fix that? Well, back in the scoreboard sequencer example, there's a class setting over here. Just click on the class setting, and then there will be a run construction script in the sequencer. So we need to click on that. And I don't know why it's not on by default. It should really be on by default. But if you click on that and then compile and save, you could update the variables within the sequencer. So whenever you do a sequencer and then you need a variable, something like this to like update in the sequencer, always remember to go to the class settings and then click on the run constructor script in sequencer. So then it can actually run through the constructor script over here. Right, so that's a really important part. All right, the next thing is that when we scribble through the sequencer, you can see that the numbers are not updating in a sequential factor. Like if it's like 0, then it should technically go from like 0 to 12 in between. So, but then it's only a jump from the numbers over here. And if you want these sequential number changes, then you have, it's because this is at an integer right now. So for ints, it will just jump into the number that is keyed at. So that's the issue. So what we need to do is to change these variables into into floats. You could add in the new variable and then just like make it into a float if you want to, and then just like have it in the check score, and then just have it do a set, and then just like link all these things up. Or you could simply just change the variables into a float like that. And then when you change the integer into float, it will say it's going to change variable type, and it might break connections, but you could just do it since it's a pretty simple variable right here, so it wouldn't affect things too much. But if your things are too complicated, then maybe if you changed from the connections, then it might break things. So then you might need to make a new variables. But for this case, you just need to change the variable type, and then it'll work as it is. So let's just change the variable types for all of these 4 variables. So that's one done, and then next I'm just gonna, and then you can see that you might need to relink your things over here, like the home score, you need to relink to there, and then it'll go over there, and then it'll make it a truncate. And then we need this truncate because it will put, as example, the example is negative 0.6 equals to 1, negative 1, and then 1.6 equals 1. So with like something like 2.9, we need it to be at 2, not 3. So we don't want to round numbers because it will change the timing. When you do the time clock, then if you have it rounded, then it'll be a bit harder to like manage your times. So with truncate, it will just round the decimal points down to whatever number it is. So this will be pretty handy when it comes to making something for the time clocks. And yeah, I'll just go over and change all these into a float as well. All right, so now that's all in floats. You can see that the away score is also, you need to relink that. And then if we go to the check time, it's the same thing. We need to relink the minutes and the seconds as well. So let's we go back to the check score and then just relink this into the away score. And then go to the check time and then link that up to the value of the 2 ticks, and then seconds as well, same thing. We'll link that up and then go ahead and compile and save. And in the event graph and the construction script, you don't really need to do much to it. So going back to the sequencer, we will need to redo all these keys. So let me just go ahead and delete these first. So starting from, let's say, yeah, I'm just going to start from away score of 0 and home score of 0 and away score of 0. And then in maybe 60 frames, I will change the away score into 10 and then home score into maybe like 25. And if I scribble through the sequencer, you can see that it's updating as the sequence is playing. So that's if you want something like that, you will have to change the integer into a float in order to make it work as a sequential sequential adding of the numbers. Yep, and for the seconds and minutes, I would probably, let's say I'm cutting down from 10 seconds, and then let's just say 2 minutes. So if I key these and then go from 120, which is 4 seconds, if we go by 30 frames per second, then the seconds will go from 10 to 6, right? And let me key the seconds. But you can see that if I play it like this, there's a bit of timing issue right here. That's because everything here is in the curves for the seconds is in spline. And what we need is a linear. So we can select the keys over here and then press on this for linear interpolation. Or you can simply just press on 4, the number key 4. If I press on 1, it's going to go back to the auto. And if I press on 4, it's going to go to linear. So there's that. Or we can go on to just select the keys in the keyframe, in the sequencer here, and press on 4 to make everything linear as well. So with that, it will count down in a 1 second time frame fashion, like so. So same thing for the minutes. If you want the minutes to change, actually the minutes doesn't need to change that all that much, but I would put this at the linear as well. So yeah, I should probably put that at 1. Hold on. Oops. Yeah, so if I put this at 1 and then make this linear, you can see that all these variables are updating like it should in the sequencer. Yep, so that's how you could change this scoreboard into something that you can use in the sequencer. And the only major thing you would need to keep in mind is to have in the class settings have the construction script in the sequencer to run. So then you can run this construction script in the sequencer, and to make the variables from integer into float. All right, so this will be a pretty short tutorial since it's actually not that complicated to do. And I hope you guys learned something new from this part of the tutorial. Thank you for watching, and as always, never stop learning.